Tonight, a nationwide search for two missing children has come to a gruesome end. Family members confirm that the remains found on Chad Daybell's rural property in Idaho are the bodies of his stepchildren.
Idaho, June 2020. Police and FBI agents search the backyard of a home in Fremont County. They have a warrant. They know what they're looking for. They start digging. What they discover will horrify the nation. Two children, buried in the dirt, dead for months. A 16-year-old girl named Tylee Ryan, a 7-year-old boy named Joshua J.J. Vallow, both murdered, both hidden. Their mother, Vallow Daybell. The man who buried them, Chad Daybell, her new husband. This is their story, from happy family to cult delusion to murder. From a woman who believed her children were zombies to a convicted killer serving life in prison. But it didn't start with murder. It started with religious obsession. It started with beliefs about the end of the world. It started with a cult. This is the complete story of the Doomsday Mom and how two innocent children became victims of their mother's madness.
Lori Vallow wasn't born a murderer. Nobody is. Lori K. Vallow was born in 1973. She grew up in the American Midwest. By all accounts, she was a normal girl. She had friends, she had family, she had a normal childhood. As an adult, Lori became a businesswoman. She was attractive, she was charming, she knew how to talk to people. She had jobs, she had a career. Lori had been married before, multiple times. Her first marriage, like many first marriages, didn't work out. She divorced. That was her life. Then in 2006, at age 33, Lori married Charles Vallow. Charles was a successful businessman. He was older than Lori. He was wealthy. They lived in Arizona. Lori already had a daughter from a previous marriage, Tylee Ryan. Tylee was born in 2003. She was a beautiful girl, smart, kind, loved by her family. Charles and Lori decided to expand their family. In 2014, they adopted a child, a boy named Joshua J.J. Vallow. J.J. was 7 years old when they adopted him. He had autism. He had special needs. He required attention and care. But according to everyone who knew the family, Lori was a good mother to J.J. Her friend April Raymond said Lori was patient with J.J. She was attentive. She was loving. By all appearances, Lori had achieved what many people want: a successful marriage, beautiful children, a comfortable life in Arizona. But something was missing, or something was looking for a way in. That something would change everything. Chad Daybell was a romance novelist, self-published. He wrote books about love and relationships, escapist fiction, the kind of books people read to escape their lives for a while. Chad lived in Idaho. He was married to a woman named Tammy. They had 5 children together. By all accounts, Chad and Tammy had a normal marriage. But Chad had another interest beyond his romance novels. He was deeply involved in religious beliefs. Specifically, he believed in the end times. He believed in doomsday prophecies. He believed in apocalyptic scenarios. He incorporated these beliefs into his novels. He wrote about the end of the world. He wrote about spiritual warfare. He wrote about good versus evil. Then, sometime in 2018, Chad Daybell met Lori Vallow. The exact circumstances of how they met are not entirely clear. But what is clear is that once they met, something shifted. They began talking. They began bonding over religious ideas. Specifically, they began discussing something called zombies. But these weren't the undead zombies of movies. In their belief system, zombies referred to people whose souls had been taken over by dark spirits, people who were possessed, people who were no longer themselves, but were controlled by demons. Lori's friend later recalled that Lori began talking about these beliefs. She began saying that certain people around her were zombies.
She began saying that these people were possessed by dark spirits. As Lori and Chad communicated more, these beliefs deepened. They talked about the end of the world. They talked about doomsday. They talked about a coming apocalypse. But more importantly, they talked about her husband, Charles Vallow, and they began using a specific word to describe him: demon. Lori began telling people that Charles was a demon, that he was possessed, that his body was being controlled by a dark spirit named Ned.
This wasn't metaphorical. This wasn't Lori being upset with her husband in a normal way. Lori genuinely believed that the man she had been married to for 12 years was no longer Charles Vallow, but was instead a demon inhabiting his body. The consequences of this belief would be catastrophic. July 11th, 2019, Chandler, Arizona. Charles Vallow went to the home where Lori was living with Tylee and JJ. He had come to pick up JJ for school. He had custody of JJ on certain days. This was a routine visitation. When he arrived, Lori's brother, Alex Cox, was there. Alex Cox was Lori's younger brother. He had recently moved in with Lori. He was part of her life, and according to Lori's beliefs, he shared her religious convictions about zombies and demons. What happened next is contested. Alex Cox's account. Charles Vallow attacked him. Charles Vallow was aggressive. Charles Vallow was physically threatening. Alex Cox felt his life was in danger. So Alex Cox, acting in self-defense, shot Charles Vallow. Charles Vallow died from the gunshot wound. Police responded to the scene. They took statements from Lori and Tylee, who were witnesses.
What's going on? What happened?
Oh, he was talking with my sister earlier.
No, what happened today, though? Like, just in the last 20 minutes.
He came at me with a bat.
Okay. Was he living here or
no.
visiting?
He came to pick up his son. He was just yelling at me.
Okay. What was he yelling at you about?
About my sister because I'd broken up a tussle with them earlier. And he told me not to interfere anymore with them or I'd pay. And he came at me with a bat.
Okay, so you're over here visiting your sister and your niece.
Yes.
Okay, and there was a tussle between your sister and her husband.
Yes.
So you both, so you get in an argument. What is it over?
Well, it was over my sister. He was getting physical with her, and so my niece came out with her bat, and then he took the bat away from her.
Wait a minute, I thought you said your niece left.
She did. This was before.
Okay, so before your sister and your niece left.
Yeah.
At some point, your sister and her husband are arguing.
Yes.
Verbal argument. And then your niece pulls out a bat.
Well, it wasn't verbal. He was getting close, and she came out to defend my sister with her bat.
Your niece.
Yes.
Okay.
And then she poked at him, and he took it away.
Okay.
And then I stepped in and told them they needed to separate.
Right.
So then my sister leaves with my niece.
And how long ago did they leave? It's been like an hour, 10 minutes?
20 minutes maybe? I don't know.
Okay. So not terribly long.
No.
Oh, okay.
And then he's coming back at me, and he still got the bat in his hand. I'm like, what are you doing?
And where are you at it? Where are you both
in the
at?
living room.
Okay.
And then I turned around, and he hit me in the back of the head with the bat. So I went to my room and got my gun. I always carry it.
You went to your room, meaning the room you're staying in?
Yeah.
Okay, and you brought a gun with you?
Yes.
Do you always bring a gun?
I have a concealed carry always.
Okay.
Just to be safe. And then I told him to put the bat down, and he wouldn't, and he came at me again. I just went back to the living room, like, what is your problem?
With the gun in your hand?
Yes. And I said, I want you to put that bat down, and he wouldn't do it. And he's like, and he came at me with the bat again after he'd already hit me in the head, so I shot him to stop him.
They took statements from Alex Cox. Based on Alex Cox's claim of self-defense, police did not charge him with a crime. The death was ruled a tragedy, a defensive shooting, a justifiable homicide. The case was closed. Charles Vallow was dead. But here's what's critical. Nobody at the time questioned whether this was really self-defense. Nobody at the time knew about Lori's beliefs that Charles was a demon. Nobody at the time knew that Lori and her brother might have planned this. Police didn't have the full context. They only had the statements from people at the scene. And based on what they heard,
They believed Alex Pox. Charles Vallow was buried. Life went on. But the death of Charles Vallow would later be revealed to be something very different than what police initially thought. It would later be revealed to be murder, not self-defense. It would later be revealed that Lori had plotted her husband's death because she believed he was a demon. But that revelation would come much later. For now, Charles Vallow was dead, and nobody was charged with a crime. After Charles Vallow's death, Lori was free. She no longer had a husband telling her what to do. She no longer had someone questioning her beliefs. She was free to do what she wanted. By September 2019, Lori had moved to Idaho to be closer to Chad Daybell. She took Tylee and JJ with her. Tylee was 16 years old. She was a teenager. She was supposed to be in school. She was supposed to be living a normal teenage life. JJ was 7 years old. He was an elementary school student. He was supposed to be in school. He was supposed to be learning and growing. But once they moved to Idaho, something changed. Tylee and JJ were no longer seen. They were no longer at school. They were no longer visible to the outside world. Lori began lying about them. When people asked where the children were, Lori made up stories. She said Tylee was traveling. She said JJ was with a family friend named Melanie Gibb in Arizona. She said the children were fine. They were safe. Everything was normal. But it wasn't normal. The children hadn't been seen in weeks. Nobody had actually seen them or confirmed they were alive. By September 2019, people who cared about the children began getting worried. Tylee's school in Arizona noticed she wasn't enrolled. Nobody came to pick her up. Nobody explained her absence. JJ's school also noticed. JJ wasn't there. He wasn't in class. There was no explanation. Family members became concerned. Something wasn't right. Where were the children? They reached out to Lori. Lori continued lying. She said the children were fine. She said everything was under control. But the lies were becoming harder to maintain. More people were asking questions. More people were concerned. By November 2019, the concern became urgent enough that authorities got involved. Police began searching for Tylee and JJ. They put out missing child alerts. They began investigating. Lori continued to lie. She told police that JJ was with Melanie Gibb, but when police contacted Melanie Gibb, Melanie said she had never seen JJ. She said Lori's story was a lie. Lori had been caught in a lie. The lies were crumbling. The truth was starting to emerge.
Hello, sweet Melanie.
Hey, Chad. Hey, Lori. I want to know, remember we talked about JJ going to Kay's house, and you told me they went there, and now he's not there? I was wondering what happened.
Well, I had to move him somewhere else because of her actions. So,
Was she doing something? Like, was she trying to come get him or something? Or, like, trying to kidnap him?
well, she's said that lots of times before, but,
Okay. Well, you know, when I asked Chad the other day, I was like, hey, where is JJ? And he said, for my security, he didn't want me to know. So is there a reason I should be in danger to know where he is?
no, it's nobody. It's his danger. It's the danger that there's people after me.
Okay.
So,
If you knew, that puts you in a danger.
well, just in a bad position.
Yeah, bad position.
Everybody, if they don't know anything, then they don't have to say they know.
All right. So you're just worried. Okay.
I'm just to keep him protected and
keep you protected.
keep everybody else good.
I appreciate that. Well, I was wondering why you told the police why he was with me.
I just needed to have somebody so I wouldn't have to tell them where he really was because they were going to tell Kay where he is.
Oh, Yeah, so do you think it's like your family? Or, like your family, your dad, or, those
my
people?
family, well, not my whole family, but as you know, most of my family is working against me and with her, basically.
Yeah. Is JJ safe?
He is safe and happy.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
But even as police were searching for the children, Lori was doing something shocking, something that would later horrify the nation. Even as police were looking for her missing children, Lori was planning her wedding to Chad Daybell.
Chad Daybell was married to Tammy. They had been married for years. They had 5 children together. Tammy was a mother. She was a wife. She had a life. But Tammy was also an obstacle. If Chad was going to marry Lori, he first had to get rid of Tammy. Divorce was possible, but that would take time. That would involve lawyers. That would involve complications. Lori and Chad had another solution. They believed that Tammy was a zombie, that she was possessed by demons, that she needed to be removed. In October 2019, Tammy Daybell died suddenly. She was found dead at home. The death was unexpected. Police were called. Authorities investigated. But what exactly happened to Tammy Daybell? How did she die? An autopsy was offered to the family. Chad and his adult children declined the autopsy. They said they believed Tammy died of natural causes. They said they didn't want to pursue an autopsy. Without an autopsy, police couldn't determine the exact cause of death. They couldn't find evidence of foul play. They had no proof of murder. So Tammy Daybell was ruled as having died of natural causes. Her death was accepted. She was buried. She was mourned. But what really happened to Tammy Daybell? The truth would emerge later. The truth would reveal that Tammy may have been murdered. The truth would reveal that Chad and Lori may have conspired to kill her. But at the time, nobody knew. Nobody questioned it. Tammy Daybell was dead, and it appeared to be natural causes. And within 2 weeks of Tammy's funeral, Chad and Lori got married. They flew to Hawaii. They stood on a beach. They smiled for photos. They celebrated their union while Lori's 2 children, Tylee and JJ, were missing and likely already dead. It was a honeymoon while a search for her missing children was happening across America. By late 2019, the situation was becoming critical. Children were missing. A woman had died. A man had been shot. And there were connections between all of these events. Police began connecting the dots. They had Charles Vallow's death in July. They had Tammy Daybell's death in October. They had Tylee and JJ missing since September. They had Lori Vallow, who was now married to Chad Daybell, lying about the children's whereabouts. It was a pattern. It was a timeline. It was evidence of something bigger. Police wanted to talk to Lori. They wanted answers. They wanted to know where the children were. Lori refused to cooperate. She refused to produce the children. She refused to explain what happened to them. Police wanted to charge her. Police wanted to arrest her. But they had a problem. They didn't have the children. They didn't have bodies. They didn't have proof that the children were dead. Without evidence of a crime, police couldn't make certain charges. They had suspicions, they had concerns, but they didn't have proof. So police took what action they could. In February 2020, police arrested Lori in Hawaii. She was arrested for failing to produce her children. It wasn't murder charges. It wasn't the charge police wanted, but it was enough to take her into custody. But Lori's cooperation still wasn't forthcoming. She refused to say where the children were. She maintained her lies. She maintained her stories. Police were frustrated. They knew something terrible had happened to the children. They could feel it, but they couldn't prove it. Then, in June 2020, something changed. Police got a new lead. They focused their search on Chad Daybell's property. Specifically, they focused on areas where cell phone data showed someone had been. Alex Cox's cell phone data from the day Tylee and JJ disappeared, showed him at Chad Daybell's property. Why would Lori's brother be at Chad Daybell's property on the day the children disappeared? Why would his phone be there? Police began digging, literally digging, searching the backyard.
And on June 9th, 2020, they found them. 2 bodies, buried in the dirt, wrapped and hidden. Tylee Ryan, 16 years old, was found first. Then Joshua J.J. Vallow, 7 years old. The children had been dead for months. They had been buried on Chad Daybell's property. They had been hidden while police searched. They had been hidden while Lori went on a honeymoon.
With the bodies found, everything changed. Police now had evidence of a crime. Police now had proof that Tylee and JJ were dead. Police now knew where the children had been all along. Lori Vallow Daybell was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of Tylee and JJ, conspiracy to commit murder, murder of Tammy Daybell, conspiracy charge, grand theft for collecting Social Security benefits for children she knew were dead. Chad Daybell was arrested separately and charged with similar counts. Both defendants pleaded not guilty. Both maintained their innocence. Lori's defense strategy was unusual. She claimed that her extreme religious beliefs were protected by the First Amendment. She argued that people have the right to their religious views, no matter how extreme. Chad's defense claimed that Lori was with other people when the children were murdered, and that Chad was in Hawaii when Tammy died. He claimed he couldn't be guilty because he had an alibi. But the prosecution had evidence. They had phone records. They had text messages. They had circumstantial evidence that connected both of them to the murders. The trial was going to be complex. It was going to be long. It was going to be detailed.
But it was also going to be shocking, because what would be revealed in the trial was far more disturbing than anyone expected.
The trial began in April 2023, nearly 3 years after the children disappeared. They presented evidence that Lori believed her children were possessed by demons. The prosecution presented evidence that Lori had told people her children were zombies. Her children had been taken over by dark spirits. Her children needed to be removed. It was necessary to kill the children to save their souls.
On May 12th, 2023, a jury in Idaho returned a guilty verdict.
Fremont, State of Idaho plaintiff versus Lori Noreen Vallow, aka Lori Noreen Daybell, defendant, case number CR 22211624. Question number 1. In regards to count 1 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan and grand theft by deception? Answer, guilty. Question number 2. In regards to count 2 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan? Answer, guilty. Question number 3. In regards to count 3 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow and grand theft by deception? Answer, guilty. Question number 4. In regards to count 4 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow? Answer, guilty. Question number 5. In regards to count 5 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell? Answer, guilty. Question number 6. In regards to count 7 of the amended indictment, Is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of grand theft? Answer, guilty. Dated this 12th day of May, 2023, signed by the presiding officer.
In July 2023, Lori was sentenced. The judge sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Not one life sentence, multiple life sentences to be served consecutively.
While Lori was convicted in May 2023, Chad Daybell's trial didn't begin until 2024.
In May 2024, a jury found Chad Daybell guilty on all counts. Guilty of the first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan. Guilty of the first-degree murder of Joshua Vallow. Guilty of the first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell. Guilty of conspiracy to commit murder. Guilty of insurance fraud. Chad had been collecting insurance money from Tammy's death. Evidence showed he had benefited financially from her death. In June 2024, Chad was sentenced. The judge sentenced Chad Daybell to death. In July 2025, Lori was sentenced to additional life sentences in Arizona.
She now faces multiple life sentences across multiple states. She will never be released from prison.
How long have you lived here?
Like 3 weeks.
Oh, geez. Yeah, okay.
That's why the neighbors don't know us.
Gotcha.
Like, hi neighbor, sorry.